Welcome to the God Took Me to Las Vegas broadcast. I'm your host, Randy Mortensen. This is a weekly 25 to 30 minute program where we provide answers for your I don't know how. Whether you're dealing with recovery issues, emotions from a loss, or life is just throwing you one more curveball than you were expecting, I'm so glad that you're here. You're going to be blown away by the enthusiasm, the excitement, the attitude of my guest, Tina, today. And it's always great to see that we do have people joining this broadcast literally from coast to coast here in North America. But last count, we had listeners and viewers in 46 countries. So thanks for taking time from your busy schedules to connect. Depending on the platform you're watching, if there's a way for you to subscribe, please do that. If you can leave a comment, we love your comments. For more information on what God has me doing on a day-to-day basis, you can go to my website, which is randymortensen.com. Mortensen is Mortensen, which means I have Danish heritage. Later in the show, I will talk about a 21-point assessment that can be used to determine whether you or a loved one is dealing with some challenges on a mild, moderate, or severe case of substance abuse. And we'll talk more about my Lifestyle Champion cohort program at that time. But I will just say this, Tina, enough about me, and this is all going to be about you from this point forward. So welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with me, and thank you so much for this nice introduction.
Absolutely. And so anybody that's listened to at least one episode knows my usual first question is, what is there that you know today that you wish your 22-year-old self would have known?
I wish I would have known that it doesn't take a lot to be happy, and that there is no external validation or external need, that it is all just your decision. I would have really loved to know that by then, because I wasn't happy at that time.
Right. Well, and many of us at 22 didn't even understand the definition of what happiness looks like or feels like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah. So as I was doing some research on Tina, I came across the fact that you were previously known as Dr. Love. Give our listeners and viewers a little bit of background on where Dr. Love came from.
So actually, when I started my career, I wasn't really sure what it's going to look like. So I just knew I wanted to help people to be happier in life, in that sense, more loved or feel more loved in that time. And I was asking other people, because I didn't know how to approach that, what they think is good for me. And as I have recently been in Cuba and came back from Cuba, I have been prompted with all these different styles of life. And, the Caribbean people with this flair, and they're like really going forward. They don't have these fears of rejection and stuff like that. So they just go for it. And so people told me, like, you're good at flirting, you should do that. And I was like, well, that sounds funny, so why not? And then I started to help people with flirting issues, and I got Austria's single coach. I wrote blogs in that time. It was a column for the biggest dating platform there. And yeah, after that, I wrote a book also about dating and flirting. And after that, I realized that that's not enough, because flirting is a nice thing, but it's just the entering of the relationship. But then there's the relationship and other problems appear. So I started to extend my services to relationships. And from there, I realized, well, maybe I should focus a little bit more on the individual, because if they're not happy, the relationship isn't happy. So all over that, I created a tour with Segafredo. At that time, it was the Giro d'Amore. We went through all Austria, and I did speaking engagement and stuff like that to teach people how to have the sparkle relationships in their lives from the beginning to the end. And so this is how I became Dr. Love. I was a Dottore Amore.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Wow. Dr. Love. Yes. With all capital letters, right? For the expression. Okay. So let's go back to your younger years. You started out in horseback riding. How did that all come about?
I think at the beginning it was that my parents told me I need to do something, whether it's playing tennis or riding horses. And I didn't want that. I was a lazy girl. But I was choosing, okay, well, if I have to choose this or that, I'd rather take the horse because it's an animal. And I was so frightened of horses, to be honest. And of course, the second day I fell off the horse and I didn't want to go back to the lessons. But then I fell in love with horses because they're beautiful. They're really kind. And I think for young girls, they give you some power, some strength that you don't have, because you're dealing with this huge animal. This huge animal is still kind and nice to you. So it gives you some feeling of belonging to that. So I love that. And I also love to ride, and I love to do all this stuff with the horses. And my grandparents brought me to a stable where they did horseback jumping. And I was like, oh, that's fun. Let's do that. And they told me like, oh, you should go to competitions. And then I went to this little competitions and I won as a youth.
And so you were racing, you were jumping on the horses is what you were doing? Yes. Oh my gosh.
When I was older, I proceeded to dressage, but at that time I was jumping.
But would you go back to jumping today? Would you even try it today? No.
little jumps.
Yeah, little jumps. I as a young guy, I rode horse a lot, but we didn't never jump anything like that. That would be a little freaky for me. But wow. And then how did you get into snowboarding?
I think the main decision for snowboarding, there were two reasons. The first reason was that I felt a little chubby, like, a little bit too much. And I thought I need to lose weight. And it's a good thing when I was studying at university to just lighten that up with a little bit of snowboard teaching. So that's how I started. And then they told me like, oh, look, there's a competition. And obviously I was a competitive girl at that time. And I won that competition. And I was like, oh, that's a cool thing. Maybe I should do a little bit more of that. And then I started training. And this is how I came into the championships, like the World Cup. I mean, of course, It wasn't immediately. It took me a while, but eventually at some point I was there.
So like how many years did you do that, the competition in snowboarding?
Like about 6 years, maybe.
Oh, 6
Not
years.
Not too long, because I had some accidents, and there was this incident that I thought I was winning a race that was quite important for me. I thought it's important. And when I was on my way back home, I thought like, okay, honestly, this is how happiness feels. I thought if I win this race, I would really be happy and excited. But I was on my way home and I thought like, that's not enough.
Okay.
And that was the first time for me I considered that even if I would win greater races, bigger races, it would still not be enough, because I would probably need to search the happiness somewhere else. And I realized that in training, for example, with all the teammates, I was happy, but the competition, that didn't give me the happiness. The winning didn't give me the happiness. So. Oh,
interesting. But then somewhere towards the end of those 6 years, you had a pretty major accident, right?
It was even before. It was in year 3 or 4, I think. I broke my knee. I crashed it completely. And the doctors told me that probably I will never be able to walk. But I didn't like the doctor because he didn't let me go to the toilet, to be honest. So I was thinking that's not very human, and I don't believe him. And that was the fact that I think that made me so strong that I was able to walk in 6 weeks, because I just didn't believe the diagnosis that he gave me. And the next doctor told me, we got that. You just said that. I heard you're going to walk. And in 6 weeks, I was back on the snowboard.
Wow.
Not racing, but, like boarding.
And did you have was your knee replaced, or what did they have to do?
They took some bone from my hips and they built I don't know how they did that, but they built a new knee from that, and they fixed it with screws and all that stuff. So I'm not a doctor, but they told me what they did, and it's like, whoa, that must be major.
Wow. And so that was in Austria where that surgery was?
Yes.
Okay. Exactly. Okay. Wow. That's amazing that you had that quick of a recovery from that to be able to do that. right?
But to be honest, it was 11 hours of recovery every day. So it wasn't like an easy journey. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I started doing the work. So it's not like, people always think like people, they get back, they have an easy journey or they are lucky. No, it's hard work and you really have to show commitment. Otherwise, it's not going to be that smooth. And it wasn't smooth. It was work. I put the work in, I put the effort in, and that was made me succeed in the end.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. Anything that's 11 hours a day, that's a major commitment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you didn't just snap your fingers and get better. You had to be committed to getting better. That's awesome. Yes. Okay. And so what was, you had a lot of great successes in your youth, in your teen years and into your 20s, it sounds like. But what were the 2 or 3 challenges that you faced as you were growing up? What comes to mind?
2 or 3. I think there were so many. Well, I think that basically one of the biggest challenges, like many of us, we grew up in this money-focused or wealth-focused society, but we do not learn love. So I think that was a big challenge for me because I did not have self-confidence or anything like that. I was fighting for love. I was fighting to please people. I didn't find myself enough. So I was trying to change towards people to make them love me. And at some point I was confused about who I am and what is me, what is them. And as an introvert and an empath, it's even more complicated if you focus so much on the outside, because then you just don't have the connection with yourself anymore. So I think this was one of the biggest struggles, and also one that I dealt with the longest, obviously, like many of us. There's always challenges and you will always grow. But this is something that is like, an onion that comes like step by step and you kind of reset and redo it again and redo it again until a point where you're like, well, now I feel like I love myself, and that's good. And no one from the outside can tell me that I'm not lovable. If you can't love me, it's not my problem, because I know that I try my best to be the best version of myself. And if this is not enough, I'm sorry. I cannot be better than I am.
Yeah. That's a lot of wisdom. That there's a lot of wisdom in just hearing you say those words. That takes, you don't just snap your fingers and improve. You need to grow. And I will often say that there's 3 parts that make up our day-to-day life. It's our physical, it's our psychological, and it's our spiritual. Those 3 areas of our life. And when one of them's out of balance, that's when life's just not functional, right?
That's true.
So somebody that's listening to this is going to say, okay, how do I get a hold of Tina? Can I work with Tina? How would you we'll put your website in the show notes, but what else? Who's your ideal client in the coaching you're doing today?
I work basically with people who want a better life, who want to achieve their dream life, who feel internally that what they're facing at this moment, that's just not what's meant to be for them. So there is this flame and this deep knowledge that there is so much more meant, but they get stuck over and over and over again, because this is basically telling me that there is some inner blockages. And I can work with people on these inner blockages. And I have a holistic approach on that. So I work mentally. I work also with their body and their health, because many people also, if they don't focus very much on one area of their life, it's likely that other areas suffer as well. And also we can work on the finances. So the dream life covers it all, because if you're not having health, it's not a dream. If you're not having freedom, like financially, it's not a dream. And if you're not having love, whether for yourself or for your partner or in your whole life, it's not a dream life. So I think you need to cover all the bases to really establish and make people happy and provide the idea that this happiness is possible. I love to inspire people. And what I love most is when I had a session with someone and the next session they come and they glow differently. And this is what I want to see.
Yeah. Just the smile and the sparkle in their eye, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, folks, we will put in the show notes Tina's website, and she's how many books have you written? One or more?
Two.
Two. I thought it was two, but I didn't want to say two. So her website's got a wealth of information on it. If you're looking for a powerful speaker, she does a great job of speaking also. So I'm gonna jump back in here after I share a couple things about what I've got to offer. But then we're gonna talk about your young friend who almost died in your apartment when I come back. Okay, so folks, next month the Lifestyle Champion cohort, which is the 8-week, 90-minute weekly sessions of meetings, will launch again, and there's 3 phases to that. Number 1's evaluate. That's where the 21 question assessment comes into play. Second is equip. So how do you now live that different life that you desire to? And then the third phase is how do you enjoy the new you? And so to determine whether you or a loved one's eligible, go to randymortensen.com. There's a 21 question assessment that you can download there that will determine whether you're a mild, moderate, or severe case of substance abuse. If you're mild or moderate, you're a good fit. If it's severe, then I've got some people in my network that I will refer you to. For more information or to get into my database, you can simply text champion to 66866. That's champion to 66866. So now, Tina, let's talk about you've been fortunate to not have that compulsive destructive behavior, although you've probably done the dance with it in the past in the great lifestyle. You were an opera singer at one time too. I forgot to bring that up.
Yeah, I'm a trained opera singer. I never sang actually at the opera, just at little concerts. But yes, I'm a trained opera singer. That was my wish. I just did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so how did this friend almost die in your apartment because of drug abuse?
Well, that was when I moved into my new apartment. I was like 19 or something like that. I think it was 19. And I'm not saying that I was a stranger to drugs, and I had a lot of friends who were regularly using. So that was the welcoming party in my new apartment, and everyone was drinking out on the balcony, and I had no idea what she did. But when we went in, some of my friends said like, come in. She's lying there. And my friend, whose name is Tina as well, she lay on the floor in the entrance, and her eyes were not visible. It was all white, and some thing came out of her mouth, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know what she took. So we were just monitoring her, but I was really frightened. We were afraid that she'd die. So we were already prepared to call the ambulance, but at the same time we were afraid because she was drug using. And I mean, we were 19, so we were not prepared for this, to be honest. I wasn't an adult at that time. I didn't feel like an adult. So, and we were all drunk and, a party thing. And then there is this lady almost dying in your apartment, and we were just overwhelmed by that. And fortunately, after 2 hours, something like that, she opened her eyes again. So
wow.
Fortunately, it didn't happen and everything went well, but it was scary. And that was point number 1, where I thought like, I'm not sure if this is the right way for me.
Yeah, that was that awakening for you. But then it's you've also worked with people that have gone through AA or have gone through some other substance abuse treatment program. What do you think as, that Dr. Love or that dream life coach, what is it why are people doing this? Why is substance abuse growing, particularly in people in their 20s and 30s these days at a more rapid pace? Why do you think that is?
I mean, I can't talk about myself for my own reasons that I know, because I didn't know how to cope with the misunderstanding that I felt from the world. And basically because this was people who I had a belonging to. I felt I belonged to these people if I do it too. And I didn't have anyone else where I felt I would belong to at that time. So the drug abuse was a coping mechanism. Obviously not a good one, but it made it a little bit easier for me. And I, at that time, like when I was really young, I was struggling also with the thoughts of killing myself because I was just feeling I wasn't loved. And the drug just that just eased it a little bit for me. And I think that all of us, if I look at these people from my adult point of view, we all struggled with the same thing. So I think when people do this, I think in our modern world where everything, communication, love, everything needs to be so fast, we have forgotten to sit down and to really cope with our problems, like going there, crying, and deal with the emotion, not just pushing it away. Because I heard many times, yeah, you shouldn't cry for this. Yeah, of course, because it needs to be released. And if I keep this emotion inside and I keep the next one and the next, then my inside is just the trash. And it keeps accumulating. And at some point, I cannot handle it anymore. And honestly, I mean, now in my conscious life, I feel that too, but I wouldn't let it to this point. But if I would just stuff it because I don't have time and I stuff the next and the next and the next thing, like after 4 things, I'm like, whoa, now it's getting too much. But when I was a child, there were 100 things that I stuffed down that trash. And I think that was the reason for me that I needed this. And I think this is the reason for many people that they need the drug, because this is the only way of escaping this big trash that they have inside.
And it's a coping mechanism that doesn't work.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So what would you say to that woman today who's living with somebody they know or they maybe don't know? He's got a drinking problem or doing drugs or whatever. What would you say to that woman today that's relatable to your journey to encourage her and offer her a little guidance?
Well, it's funny that you asked that question because I have been in a relationship too with a drug addict that I just found out like on the go. At the beginning, I tried to help him to overcome this. But I realized that every attempt from me to help him made him just dependable on me. And he was always asking for more and more and more support. But he didn't do the steps. So I did something, like I gave him a coaching or something like that. And he was like, oh, that's so good. But he didn't do a change. He didn't do anything. So at some point, I realized that I need to let go of this. I need to understand that I cannot save someone who isn't ready to be saved. So, I mean, it's really hard, especially if it's a loved person, because you see the way they don't see at this time. And you see that it's just this little thing. And yes, it might be some days of discomfort that they're so afraid of. And I understand because it's discomfort. But they have to make the decision themselves, and they have to find the power within themselves. If they don't find it, it will always be you. And if it's not you for some reason, they're going to collapse back. And you don't want this. You can't have this. So you have to give the responsibility back to them. So as hard as it is.
Well, in the recovery circles, we talk a lot about codependency, and it's that codependency that might actually complicate that compulsive destructive behavior more, because it's the guilt and shame that person who's doing the making the poor choices, it's the guilt and shame that just continues to build up and build up and build up. And so as we think of the spouses, the loved ones of that guy who's making the poor choices, you're right. It's imperative to take care of yourself first, and then do whatever you can to be supportive. But none of us can snap our fingers and just fix that loved one by any stretch. So,
and I think as one more important thing is boundaries. You need to set boundaries. You need to set a behavior that is acceptable to you, because in the need to help that person, sometimes we forget that we need the boundaries too. And we need to keep in the relationship. We need to be happy too. It's not just them. And I understand that what they're struggling with and they go through is hard and is difficult and everything. It's just still not about them because it's a relationship.
Yeah, and it's the balance in those relationships that is difficult. I talk with couples about it's the 50-50. If it's 51-49, it's not going to feel comfortable at all.
And especially with the drug addicts, it's not 49-51. It's usually 20-80.
Yeah,
like
the wrong way, for sure. Okay, and so as we've just got a few minutes left here, what is there that you're seeing in the people you're working with today that is much more complicated or complex for them compared to pre-COVID? Anything come to mind?
I think that some people, they try to be more self-dependent and they are a little bit more lonely sometimes. COVID has changed for some people. It's not true. Some people, COVID has changed to be more adventurous and to live life more. I'm not saying that they take care about others, but at least to take more risks, because they understood in COVID that we don't know anything about tomorrow. So we just need to make it happen now. And for other people, they got stuck in the fear and they just didn't really release that. So it's the both sides of the coin, I think.
Right. No, that's good. It really is. And it's really determining what in your life is going to define your happiness or your satisfaction. And I look at the significance and the impact in our lives also, because it's not all about the big house or the fast car or all of those things. It's really, and you're doing a great job of it, Tina, just wanting to come alongside others who are struggling, for sure, because we can't just snap our fingers and be happy by any stretch.
No, yeah. But it's always a risk. And it takes a lot of courage. I'm not saying that's going to be easy, because you have to face your fears. You have to face all the things that are obstacles to that point. But I promise, really, if you just come out of this sustainable pain zone, just one step, and you just try how good it is outside there and how green the grass is on the other side, you will never, ever look back.
Wow. Those are good words. All right. I'll ask you for closing comments here in a minute. So folks, I did forget to mention my memoir has been out for about 2 months now. It's titled God Took Me to Las Vegas to Get Sober. You can actually go to the website, godtookmetolasvegas.com, and order your copy of the book now. It's not yet on the usual Amazon or the other bookstores, but you can buy it directly. So that's it. godtookmetolasvegas.com. Some of the shocking statistics that I share in my keynote talks are that there's over 300 people a day in the United States overdosing, and 2/3 of those are as a result of fentanyl. So it's imperative that we crush this stigma that's existing. If you're struggling today, or you maybe know that person who's battling with the compulsive destructive behavior, please don't wait another day to seek help. Reach out to somebody like Tina or to me. My office number is 321-757-HOPE. Those who are struggling, those who are dying today are husbands, wives, sons, and daughters of somebody who loves them. So I did mention that if you'd rather just send me a text message, you can text Champion to 66866. As we wrap this up, I just want to express my gratitude and my heartfelt thanks to Ludia, my executive producer, for this. And Tina, what's on your heart to share as we wrap up?
That happiness is for everyone. It's not out of reach. It's just there right inside of you. And if you risk to look what's inside of you, you never regret just a single moment of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, folks, I hope you found this information helpful today. Look for the replay to be available on all the usual podcast online outlets around the globe. Have a blessed day and be extraordinary today.